Hello, I'm Tiffany Cloud. Welcome to The Storm. Thank you for watching today on WYLN 35. The race for the White House is on, and Pennsylvania is a key battleground state. Today, calling into the show, Carl Higbee. Mr. Higbee served 2 tours in Iraq as a special operator on SEAL Team 10 Echo Platoon. He was part of the Navy SEAL team that captured Ahmed Hassim Aboud al-Asawi, the Butcher of Fallujah. He is also the author of a book entitled Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, A SEAL's Story. He regularly speaks in national press about issues affecting our military, veterans, and national security. Currently, he's a spokesperson for the Great America PAC, a super PAC supporting Trump for president. Carl Higbee calls into the storm right after the break. Welcome back to The Storm. Today I have a special guest, former Navy SEAL Carl Higbee is calling in to our studio. Carl, thank you so much for calling in to The Storm.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I'm happy to have you. I am sure you are a very busy man these days.
Yeah, well, we got less than 80 days to the election, so it is crunch time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and we're going to definitely get to a lot of what you are doing as related to the super PAC that you're a spokesman for and what you're doing to help Donald Trump get elected to the White House. But before we do that, I want to have the audience get to know a little more about your background. I did open the show explaining that you served on Navy SEAL Team 10 and that you were part of the special operations team that captured the Butcher of Fallujah. Thank you for doing so, and thank you for your service to this country.
Well, thank you. It's just another job.
Yeah, sure it is. But when you completed that, you would think that you would have been met with some celebration and some accolade, but that's not exactly what happened after that capture occurred. If you could tell the audience a bit about what happened and what you went through.
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. You would think that that would be the case, but not under the Obama administration. It was, we were met with a court-martial where the terrorists accused 8 decorated Navy SEALs of prisoner abuse, and then we obviously refuted the claims that were false, and we were strung out all the way to a court-martial by our own senior SEAL leadership within the command structure. It was actually one of the biggest travesty of justices I've ever seen at the DOD, or the Department of Defense, and we were eventually all acquitted, but we had to go through a very expensive, a very public, and a very debilitating to our careers trial.
How long did that whole process last?
The whole process was, I would probably almost a year.
Right. And it's hard enough to come off a deployment as it is. I mean, that's not an easy thing to come home and try to reassimilate into civilian life, but then to have to be dealing with that, I can't even imagine.
Well, you know what it was? It's the fear of the unknown. Is that, you know, we went over there and put foot to rear for the country, and when we went out on the very operation that they told us to go out on, they court-martialed us for a successful mission, is what it comes down to, on the word of a terrorist against 8 decorated U.S. Navy SEALs. So it was a real blow, and unfortunately, it cost the SEAL community a lot of its men.
I'm sure. So typically, special operations warriors are considered and called the silent professionals. Obviously, you've chosen not to be, since your service, so silent. You've written a book, which I mentioned in the open as well, called Enemies, Foreign and Domestic, A SEAL's Story. Tell the audience a bit about that book and why you chose to write it.
So that is actually the second book. So the first book I wrote was Battle on the Home Front, which is, it was published in 2012. I published it on active duty, much to the dismay of the Department of Defense, because it was about what's going wrong in this country. And it's political. It's not about my service. It's not about me. It's about what's going wrong with this country and how we're fundamentally slipping away from the principles that we were founded on, which I don't find, productive whatsoever to fall away from the very thing that made you great. So that was the first book. The second book was in response to my legal battle with the Navy against them trying to publish Battle on the Home Front in the first place. So the second book just describes in detail the mountains of bureaucracy, the red tape, the anti-American sentiment, the anti-great sentiment within the community that tries to hold down free thinkers that want to speak out against travesties of justice, against domestic enemies, which I believe, to a certain extent, this administration has been. And we ultimately beat the U.S. Navy in a 5-0 appellate court decision in my favor, and now the lesson of my book is now taught in Navy legal school as the First Amendment line for service members. Wow,
that's really impressive. So, obviously, you have talked about the administration already, and you're clearly not necessarily its #1 fan, to say the least. One of the things that you've said publicly is basically that you believe that the policies of Obama and Clinton have really led to the metastasizing of ISIS, the spreading of ISIS all over the region. I'd like you to talk a bit about why you believe that, how you believe it's occurred, and why their policies have been so wrong for this country.
Well, I will say that the war in Iraq was fought poorly even under Bush. I think it was initially fought well. We went in for the right reasons, and we had the support of the American public. But when we started nation building in the hearts and minds to the tail end of the Bush administration, came in, drastically changed the rules of engagement for the betterment of the enemy, not for the betterment of his own men, for the betterment of the enemy. And of course, Hillary Clinton was at his side for the drawdown, and many, many, many people, including the generals and admirals and the people in charge, said, do not pull out of Iraq, because if you pull out prematurely, you're going to leave a power vacuum. It's going to cause a problem. And Obama said just the same thing he says about everything else. I know better than you. He said that to his own electorate. And Hillary Clinton was right there lockstep. Now, she voted for the war in the first place, but chose not to complete the very thing that she voted for. So, that's a tell sign. It's like she's willing to go whichever way with the wind based on whatever people want to vote for.
Well, and certainly I know personally, my own husband is an Iraq War veteran. I know of a lot of Iraq War veterans. As that last tank rolled out of Iraq, there were a lot of people that felt like they had been kicked in the solar plexus because they knew the withdrawal was going to lead to ultimately what has occurred.
So, yeah, you know what? And I thank your husband for his service as well. And I think it's really amazing that to see all these veterans that have been kicked in the stomach, because, you have Mosul, Fallujah, Baghdad, Tikrit, that are all been now re-engaged in battle zones and are being torn apart. We took Fallujah back, but what's left of it? Nothing. It's a parking lot. I think that the problem here is that those in the office thought they knew better, even though they have no military experience. And now we're seeing it true to fruition. And I called it in my first book that if we pulled out of Iraq, this is before the pullout, I said if we pull out, we're going to be back there in 10 years. And I was wrong. We were back there in 2 years.
Okay, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll pick it up with why you think Donald J. Trump is the person to put things on the right track. We will be right back on The Storm. Welcome back to The Storm. I am joined today via phone by Carl Higbie. He was a Navy SEAL. He captured the Butcher of Fallujah along with his special operations team, and he is now a spokesman for the Great America PAC, which is a super PAC supporting Donald Trump for president. So I want to find out the obvious question, which is, what is it that appeals about Donald Trump to you as a veteran?
Well, I can tell you. I look at certain things that Donald Trump has done. Look, everybody's like, oh, I really like what Hillary Clinton says. Well, guess what? Can you trust her? Absolutely not. I care about what Donald Trump, has done throughout his career. And you look at what he's done to support veterans. This guy saved the Veterans Day Parade. He's given millions of dollars to veterans. And don't let the left-wing media who smears him say, well, he hasn't really given that much. He has. He just doesn't brag about it. And that's the nature of charity with him. The other thing, too, is loyalty. We got almost no loyalty from Barack Obama. We got no loyalty from Hillary Clinton in Benghazi. But what Donald Trump stands for is high amount of loyalty. You look at what happened with Corey Lewandowski when the whole Michelle Fields thing was going on. Any other campaign, any other candidate would have fired their manager on the spot just simply because of the allegations. What does Donald Trump do? He says, screw you, media. I'm standing by my guy because my guy stands by me. And that right there is a powerful moment that is unparalleled by any speech, by any talking point, or by any article he could possibly put out. The fact that he said, I got my guys back, that's what military people across the country should be gravitating to.
Okay. And he also does have a detailed plan to fix the VA, which has been a bureaucratic mess. I say that from experience. My own spouse spent 2 years stuck in the VA disability backlog despite 6 hits from enemy fire. So I do know what that's like, and he does have a detailed plan, and you've commented that you really like his plan.
Yeah, I do like his plan, and the greatest thing about his plan is not even his plan, it's the fact that the guy has business sense. The guy has created tens of thousands of jobs, and he knows what makes a business tick and what doesn't. I mean, he understands also, being in the private sector, what is the detriments of healthcare and what are the pros of healthcare, and he knows how to optimize that, not only just for the veterans, but for everyone. So when you look at the VA, he has built an industry of taking projects that are over budget, behind the timeline, or, in other words, messed up, like the ice skating rink in New York City. The city was 7 years, overdue and over budget and everything. He got it done in 2 months under budget. So he has a history of taking projects like that and making them work. And that is the fundamental principle behind all. Like, he's got a great plan for the VA, and I think, absolutely we need to prioritize it a little bit more. But just his ability and the notion that he actually has taken a screwed-up situation and made it work before sells me.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned, too, that interests me is you talked about Hillary Clinton and words, and you talked about Donald Trump and action. But yet what's so fascinating, Carl, is that the media, the left-wing dominated mainstream media, has been focusing so much on Donald Trump's words and so little on Secretary Clinton's actions.
Right, and you've always seen those man-on-the-street interviews where someone will go out and say, what about this accomplishment? And they'll name a Donald Trump accomplishment that Hillary Clinton, then they'll say that Hillary Clinton did it. And everybody supports it just because they have this blind political allegiance, and it's not a policy allegiance. The fact of the matter is if you ask, what is a signature accomplishment of Hillary Clinton, they'll say, well, she was a senator, she was secretary. No, not what did she do. It's what did she do in those positions? What is her signature accomplishment? And people say, well, she has the judgment. No, she doesn't. It's what I want is she's had all those positions. She's had a great amount of opportunity to make a difference and change something. She's done none of it. And when she has been faced with a tough decision like Benghazi, she left my brothers to die. That is not good judgment, and it's lack of action. So there is, and when you have Donald Trump, he is a man of action. He has built something from nothing. That is what you want.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting thing is that as a special operator, you've obviously gone out on many, many missions, missions where what you were going to do was top secret, was classified. You couldn't be sharing it with anybody. It's not like you could call home or shoot an email and let everybody know what you were up to. As someone who's had to deal with sensitive information such as that, information imperative to conquering the enemy and protecting national security, what is your reaction to how Secretary Clinton has handled or mishandled classified information?
Secretary Clinton is a disaster. She sold access to the U.S. State Department for the sake of her own personal monetary gain. That is illegal. Like, you look at Bradley Manning or someone like that, Snowden or something, they are stringing these people out. Like, they are doing, whatever they can possibly do. These people are traitors, and I believe Hillary Clinton is the same type of traitor. There was a U.S. Army brief that went out the other day, and I have a picture of it that I posted on my Facebook wall and Twitter feed that listed Hillary Clinton as a domestic security threat. This is the U.S. Army on an official slide put this out, and if you don't believe me, go to @CarlHigbee on my Twitter, and you can look at it. It's there. Fox published it, Breitbart, but everybody published it. And the thing is, you have somebody like her that has absolutely no discretion you are in a world of hurt if she becomes the president.
Well, and just within recent days, thanks to the efforts of Judicial Watch, we have now learned that there are even thousands and thousands and thousands of more emails out there. We are now learning that as many as 15% of the biggest donors to the Clinton Foundation somehow got this incredible access to her as Secretary of State.
No doubt. And the funny thing is here, when I wrote my first book on active duty, there's a security protocol that you have to go through to review the books. Now, I submitted it for security review, and they didn't find anything on the first round. So I published the book. And then when the book was finally published, they came back and said that, well, you said this one thing about the outer gate guards in Iraq not having their weapons loaded. That's a security violation. I said, A, you should have caught it on the first round. B, we've been out of Iraq for 6 months, so it's completely irrelevant. And they wanted to hang me out to dry for a security violation based on that. You're talking, they tried to, and if I hadn't have challenged it with the assistance of a lawyer, they would have kicked me out of the military for that, ruining my career. Mm-hmm. Now, Hillary Clinton has somehow skated through all this stuff. She could not pass a basic security screening for the military, the FBI, the CIA, and they're going to give her more state secrets? I don't think so. It's up to the American people to hold her accountable in November now.
Absolutely it is. And with that, I'd like to go to break here. We will be right back on The Storm. Welcome back to The Storm. So Pennsylvania is a commonwealth with a very heavy veteran population. We have the Pennsylvania National Guard. It's a very patriotic state, but unfortunately, your candidate, Mr. Trump, is behind in close to every single poll in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. What is the super PAC that you're working with, the Great America PAC? What are they doing to reach out to the Philadelphia region, the Pittsburgh region, the heavy minority regions to try to get more support in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for Mr. Trump?
Well, we've actually, Great America PAC has just opened, we just sent out its PA and Ohio state chairs, and some of them are state reps and state senators in the area that are local leaders. And over the next few weeks, you're going to start seeing signs pop up. You're going to start getting phone calls. I know we're going to do it right at dinner time, so everybody will love it. But you're going to start seeing this ground game, because that's the Great America PAC is the full-service PAC. We're not just cutting ads from an office in D.C. Our operatives are all over the country in 7 different states, and we're ready to rock and roll. So you're going to start seeing the impact. And as a true tactician, I'm not going to put our tactics out on the air, but you'll start seeing the impact.
Okay, because, there have been times in the past, I know it's been a very long time, but Pennsylvania has turned red before. It's been quite a while since it's been red. Perhaps it would be nice to see her red again.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what we're hoping for. And I think with Hillary Clinton's comments on coal, the fact that she said that she's going to crush the coal industry, I think if you live in Pennsylvania and you like money in your bank account, you cannot afford to vote for Hillary Clinton, because, Jesus, she is going to take the jobs right out of Pennsylvania, and that's going to affect everybody, whether you're in the coal industry or not.
I want to close out the show by hearing a bit about something else that you do, which is you run the George Washington Leadership Foundation, and really one of the things that you do with that is you try to take veterans who are certainly already leaders by just having served in the military and handling millions of dollars of equipment and making life and death decisions, but you are really trying to show veterans how to be leaders in this nation through this foundation. If you could tell the audience about that.
Well, yeah, and this is I'm glad you gave us the airtime on this, because you can go to gwlfpac.com or gwleadershipfoundation.com. And we are a full-service PAC that is not only helping veterans in the race already, but we are pushing to get guys in the race. We have people that are phenomenal candidates across the board, They don't know how to raise the money. They don't have the political network because they were busy trading lead overseas while the other insiders were building their political career. So we bring them in, we give them a manager, we give them a fundraiser, we teach them how to talk, we teach them how to do all this stuff prior to even becoming a candidate. And then we set them loose as a candidate with a little bit of money in their pocket, with a team, a manager, and they're ready to rock and roll. So within a matter of weeks, we can catch them up to where most political insiders spend 10 years trying to get to.
Well, and the reality is, years ago, and I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head, but years ago, I would imagine the majority of people who served in Congress, or certainly more than half, had probably served in the military, and I bet the number is significantly less than that nowadays.
Well, I can tell you exactly. 41 years ago, we had over 80% of Congress were veterans. Now we have less than 20%.
And the truth is, and not to say also that you have to have been in the military to serve as commander-in-chief. We've had plenty of good presidents that never did serve, but you know, it would be certainly nice if someone has some military experience if they're considering running for the highest offices in the land.
Absolutely correct. And the thing is, when you have somebody who has fundamentally been willing to put their life on the line to defend the principles that they believe in, imagine the conviction of them as a candidate. Right now you have candidates that promise everything and deliver nothing. If you have military people, like we have a bunch of great guys right now, we have Guy Rushenthaler that we're endorsing in Pennsylvania, we have Mike Gallagher in Wisconsin, we have a number of other people across the country, but these are some of our top dogs. These guys they're winning elections by landslides. They're delivering on what they said they would on their campaign promises. I mean, these are not slouches. These are not politicians. These are everyday normal guys with their life on the line fighting for you and I.
Well, I appreciate so much. We have to wrap. I so much appreciate you calling into the show. Again, thank you for your service to this nation. Thank you for speaking up and speaking out. And hopefully we'll talk again. And remember, folks, when you look around and you don't like what you see, don't complain about it. You can do something about it. You can always vote. And thank you for watching.